are you adjusting to the new normal? That is
no, of course, that's not the intent of this meeting.
Okay, great. All right, cool. So let's take a photo. So if everyone just looks at their camera and then does a big cheesy smile. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It says that we are now live streaming on YouTube. So if you don't want anyone to hear your conversation, kindly mute yourself.
Okay, great.
I will also use this time to do housekeeping rules. Housekeeping rules are very simple. All protocols are observed. So you do not need to thank each panelist or thank Business Day before you start answering a question or thank us for joining this medium. You can just go straight in and answer the question. When you're not speaking, please mute yourself. I see everybody here is a webinar expert already, so that's fantastic. And then if you have a question or you would like for me to ask you a question, you can please send me a private message on the chat. Or there's also a Q&A function that I believe will be enabled during the session. So you can also go into the Q&A chat when you're not speaking and have a look at what questions that you would like to answer in there. Again, I run a very fluid session. So, yes, I have sent you some suggested questions, but please note that I may ask you questions that have not been previously shared. And let's have a great session. And lastly, Mr. Frank is going to open up and do everybody's bio. So yeah, I like that he's floating in the Business Day background.
We may not have the commissioner with us when we start, but she will join us when she can.
Yes, Teju has also shared that as well.
Great.
Also, I hope I can call everybody by their first name, or would people like, I know TFD is the acronym. If there's any other name that is professional, I will use that. Okay, so we're going with first names. Okay, thank you. TFD.
That TFD inside family name.
Ha! I can't call you by your first name, so how are we going to do it? I should practice.
Hello,
I would just say Ma of House of Tara International.
Okay, so we wait for her or we start? Because it's 12. Okay, all right. All right, thank you.
Okay, it's 12 o'clock. Broadcasting now.
Okay.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Frank Aibogun. I am the publisher of BusinessDay. I am very delighted to welcome you to this series in our digital dialogue experiment. Today, we will be talking about strategies for SMEs in a new world, or if you like, in a new normal. We have as partners this afternoon, MTN, our technology partners. They have been good, and so we thank them. We have a very interesting array of panelists, people who every day manage to run their business and keep it alive, whether coronavirus or not. And of course, I'd like to start by welcoming Tara Durotoye, who is CEO of Tara Cosmetics, Onyeka Akuma, CEO of Farm Crowdy, Teju Abisoye, Executive Secretary, Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, Dotun Ifebogun, Divisional Head, Retail Business at Wema Bank, Michael Clean of Darberg, Nigeria, and then of course, Buki Akomolafe, who will be our moderator this afternoon. We have in excess of 500 participants registering for this dialogue, and we're hoping they will join us. We expect that the Honorable Commissioner for Lagos State Commissioner for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Uzamat Akimbile Yusuf, will join us shortly after we have started. I think she's just trying to get online, and Buki will be welcoming as soon as that happens. My bit is done. It's at Business Day, we are keen that we are able to create opportunity for people who run businesses in Nigeria and elsewhere, to advantage of the vast knowledge that is available out there. And I'm sure you will agree when we are done today that our panelists indeed are knowledgeable in this field. We're promoting the concept of thought leadership digitally in a new experience. And just like every other thing that we do, we must keep bringing in innovation. I think at this point, let me take the pleasure in thanking our panelists and then handing over the conversation to our moderator, Buki. Once again, welcome and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frank. I really appreciate it. And welcome again to the 6th Business Day Digital Dialogue Series. As we have already had an introduction to all of our panelists, I won't spend the time reading their bios, but I would like to especially welcome the Lagos State Commissioner on Tourism and Arts and Culture. Good afternoon. Oh, yes, good afternoon, Ma.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Ma. So I've also been briefed that you may not be with us for the full extension of time due to resolution of your duties. So I'm actually going to kick off the panel by asking you a question.
Okay.
For all of our viewers, the style of panel that I run is very fluid, it's very discussionary, and it has a more of a consumer lens. So I use what I will call more consumer lingo. So Ma, the first question to you. I am a travel agent. I work for a company called Travel Start. And now that the skies are temporarily closed and we are seeing that across the world, many countries are first starting with domestic tourism before they rely on international tourism. What are Lagos State's plans to help travel agents as well as the domestic tourism industry bounce back in this new normal?
Thank you. Good morning once again. Yesterday, we had a stakeholders meeting in the ministry where the stakeholders in the tourism were actually present, and we decided that the first thing we're going to do is to set up a committee that will look into all the challenges with the new normal we are in now and come up with a suggestion and better approach to be used as a government. And the committee will be set up by next week, will be inaugurated by next week. And whatever the communique being presented, the government of Lagos State will look into it and see how we're going to implement it very, very soon.
Okay, Ma. As a follow-up, why do we need a committee to tell us what people are going through in this new normal? So far, I think it has been very clear that every industry has been struggling. Is there anything new or different that you are expecting from the committee to come up?
Why we plan to set up a committee is that they'll be able to reach out to all the stakeholders and get their own ideas. People have been coming up with different ideas, the strategy to use and the things like that. And we don't want to limit it to just ourselves alone. By the time we open it up to the committee, they'll be able to bring in the better ideas, and we cannot do everything, but we'll be able to select the best we can actually implement for this purpose.
Okay, Ma. Are there any timelines? I know you said it will be very soon, but is there
the committee will not spend more than 2 weeks before they bring up their strategy. We want it to be very short, not a long-term program, because we don't have time on our side.
Okay, excellent. Another question for you as a follow-up before I open up to other questions to the other panelists. Let's talk about consumer confidence and travel confidence. have you experienced, either personally or within your staff, because I know that you are on the road, how people are feeling in terms of confidence around moving around and potentially maybe going to stay at hotels or, even as resorts? One of the things I've seen that the federal government has, asked for last week is for hotels to basically donate their buildings for quarantine. For the hotels that do that, would there be special palliatives for them, for example? Because we go back to consumer confidence, they might now be scared to stay at that hotel because they will think, oh, if I stay there, corona patient, I don't want to. And that wasn't the case.
It's funny in this part of the world. People are celebrating people that comes out of COVID-19, and they were happy that they actually become someone advocate of COVID-19, and they really want to hear from them that what was the experience like. But in this part of the world, whenever anybody heard about COVID-19, it's like stigmatization of you have committed an offense and people doesn't want to socialize with you or move close to you because you are positive. And we're trying to sensitize our people. Coronavirus is not a death sentence, and that's why people are actually dying because of stigmatization. And we are encouraging our people that even wherever we use for COVID-19 to save our people should see that as a plus for such a building, somebody that has actually released his own assets for some other people to live. I think is a plus, and kudos to all those people that have released their either hotel, either their event center, or whatever assets they've chosen to release for the state government to use as an isolation center or OD center. And we continue to sensitize our people for advocacy that whatever after COVID-19, everything will be done to ensure that those places that we use is safe and secure for every member, for the public to go in there and have fun, including all our hotels. We're planning to do that as soon as we are out of COVID-19.
Any expectations
for people outside to actually see hotel and other event center, the lounge, the restaurant as a place to visit after COVID-19? Yes, it might be a bit difficult now because the curve is yet flattened, and people they are still conscious of the only thing I need to go out for is to go and have my business, do little things and go back home. People prefer to stay at home and even work, even not be to be outside. But as we are having it better and clearer, we are still at the mid of COVID-19. We can't say it's over, everything is fine or it's better. No, we cannot say that presently. But I believe by the time we are getting it better and the cloud is clearer, we'll be able to send a positive message to our people to start having fun. We can't encourage any gathering now. We can't encourage social activities now. And we cannot proclaim any of such presently. But as the cloud gets clearer, we go out there and sensitize our people. There'll be advocacy to support the hospitality industry.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. I want to use that to bring that to Teju at the same time. So, when Ma, our Honorable Commissioner, was talking about, we cannot encourage gatherings, we cannot encourage, people going to hotels. That's what brought about a lot of unemployment, right? I think that's just a fact. I mean, we have other business owners in here.
We can't risk our people, we can't risk the life of the citizen all because of business. We understand that. It's painful, but we cannot risk the life of the citizen at this present moment.
Yes, absolutely agree about not risking the safety of citizens for the profits of business. But Teju, how are you going to deal with unemployment? So, I think one of the great things that LSTEF has done has really been to help with that, and other governments in other states have basically taken up the Lagos state model. But how are you going to be able to attack that? Because unemployment, which was already high, has now increased because businesses that can't afford to risk the safety of their staff or consumers have had to unfortunately let people go.
Thank you for that, Buki. And I think primarily, one of the things we all agree with that the concern now is not necessarily economical, but more about health and safety of everybody. So it's so important that we first get it right before we start insisting on how we need to get it right to make sure people are going to work in safe environments. And I think even like the commissioner said, that's a priority across all sectors for us at LSCTF. As much as we want to be able to immediately jump into the whole issues and start saying what we can do, we want to first, we need to be very certain that people are doing things in the right way, in a safe environment for everybody to work. Yes, we recognize small businesses are, first of all, 86% of the jobs in Nigeria come from small businesses. From the work we've done in the past years, we've seen it clearly. The small businesses are able to create more jobs than training or any other thing that you're doing across sectors. So we are keen to see that we're in there supporting small businesses at this time. And I don't think it's just finance. I think it's a lot more than finance. It's going to be people wanting to, I like what we're doing here today. People want to learn how they can help move their business in this type of time. What can they do differently? Is it what is possible? Is it what is probable? But it's good that they'll be able to get support in terms of not just finance, but advisory, skills, what skills are lacking, what can we do to help small businesses get the right skills that they need? Those are kind of things that we want to continue to do more aggressively. And then sector-specific interventions, like the commissioner was, like one of your sectors that you spoke to the commissioner about, hospitality. It creates jobs, but how do we effectively intervene in that space to the extent that we are safeguarding lives and jobs as well?
Yes, so I think that's a brilliant answer, and thank you for that. I wanted to pick up on the last bit and kind of tie it to the Honorable Commissioner's answer from before. So, COVID, we would say it's pretty much been about 8 weeks now of what I will call during COVID season. Or if my brother-in-law was here, he would say COVIDian times. How long more are we going to wait for the government to come out with specific, detailed, or even if not detailed, at least some kind of roadmap that SMEs can take and begin to use? Because right now it feels as though it's every man for him or herself. And Onyeka use this to begin to prepare. It feels like every business for him or herself, and every owner for him or her staff. How? When are we going to see these actual plans?
So it's very easy to go into. Everybody is eager to know what is going to happen or what the government is going to do. Nobody is talking about the fact that even the government now has to face, in terms of revenues, we're talking serious revenue cuts. People are not doing business, so there's no tax revenue. Let's not talk about federal allocation and all of that. So we have to carefully plan with the limited resources that we have. So we are not, we're eager to announce and start all our lending programs across the different sectors. Like I said, we want to lend, we want to support, we want to provide advisory, whether to education sector, hospitality sector, as many sectors as that require this intervention at this time. But we have to be careful. One of the biggest challenges we've had with lending is character. So you have to get your process straight, correct in such a way that you can do your reviews, you can do your fact checking, and not, and taking into consideration the whole social distancing and all the issues right now. You also have to plan that differently. It's not going to be the same way. So before, you could have our offices full of people when they come for interviews. How do you change all of that in a way that is still effective and we're able to do our job, evaluating customers and all of that effectively? We don't want this to take any more, we don't want it to take much longer, but hopefully we should, before the next half of the year, we should actually be rolling out as much as we can. And it might not be at the same time, but in bits and bobs.
Thank you for that. I almost screamed when you said next half of the year, but then I think why the human in me wanted to scream, but then the business person in me said that's actually quite realistic. And to be very honest, I think within the next 3 to 6 months is pretty much the forecast timing that we have seen for pretty much every sector that we talk about. I want to move just quickly to Dotun. So, you know, of course, as citizens, it's easy to say the government should do everything. As in, why is the government not doing more for us? I think the next sector that you know we've looked for help are the banks. And as you represent one bank, and I want to be very specific, you represent one bank, not all banks in Nigeria. You represent one bank, Wema Bank. What is Wema Bank specifically doing to help small businesses that have to pivot, create new strategies, prepare for this new normal?
Thank you, Buki. Great. It's good to be part of this. So for Wema Bank, the first thing we did was to properly dissect the way the economy has moved within the COVID period. Essentially, we're a retail-focused bank. So for the SMEs, they are part of our play. We observe the fact that certain sectors and certain businesses are worse hit in the immediate time, and we're able to isolate them. And some of the things we did was to touch base with them to find out how they are coping. That's part of what led to some of the relief donations that we made in certain quarters, because quite a number of people are not able to earn their daily wage. And taking it further, we have to look at the businesses themselves. Of key importance is the fact that the tourism, travel, and hospitality business is very much hit in this space. What we did was to also provide what we call repayment holidays for our customers within the SME segment. We were able to isolate some of them and put 3 months repayment holiday for a number of customers within the space. Take, for instance, the schools. There's no way any school can make money because their cash flow is periodic. You cannot expect that there will be schools until the next session, which is up to September. And that means we have about 150 days or 5 months thereabout for them to get their acts together. Those are some of the things we did as a bank to enable them tide over this period. So we had to allow them to be while also supporting them. In supporting them, there are areas where we need to point their attention to. So for now, capital is shy. You are not likely to be getting loans as we used to get. Rather, you need to look at your portfolio. You need to look at your cash flow. You need to reimagine your business. Those are the periods that customers need to take to examine how their cash flows are managed. There are so many instances where you need to actually pull back on some expenses. Those are the things that we share with the customers. For instance, you take a typical rental expense that needs to be done for up to a year or two. Must you pay now? So that leads us to the issue of renegotiation with your landlord. So those are some of the advisory services we give beyond just banking. As we can see, banking has gone beyond just the intermediation or even the brick and mortar. So again, it's about being able to navigate and pivot from the new, from the old order to the new normal. So some advisory services are also in the offering for a number of these people, using basic information that they have at hand.
Okay, thank you. I have a specific question for you, and it's a little bit of either or. And unfortunately, because of how difficult COVID is, I don't think that there's a clear answer to this. But has your bank evaluated whether, what is it better to do? To give let's say 1 million Nigerians 1,000 naira versus giving 100 businesses the equivalent of that amount and distributing that so that they can therefore employ more people that are daily wage earners? Which one is better?
Well, I will answer by giving you the scope. So,
sorry, can I just clarify one thing?
Yes,
sorry, let me just clarify one thing. And as I was asking that, I really mean as a grant and not as a loan. So you're not giving the small businesses a loan, you're giving them a grant. So you're saying, dear small business, we know that you have been able to generate X amount of income prior. Here is a grant to keep you going for X longer. So that's what I want you to evaluate. So not from a loan to a corporate social responsibility initiative. I want you to evaluate two apples to apples. Thank you.
Okay, great. From the aspect of grant, these are not the core of banks. However, because of partnership and interactions with some other agencies, you can actually position groups of businesses for such. And what that also means is that from the policy perspective, you can begin to navigate and advise the regulators to provide guarantees. So there has to be some measure of risk sharing. There has to be some measure of giving from the regulators to enable this happen. For the grants specifically, some of those things that can happen have to come from possibly some of us within the social cycle. So for instance, just yesterday, a group of people put some funds together that will be used for this type of support for small businesses. So those are some of the things that can happen. So what the banks will do in this will be to appropriately channel it to the points of needs. The points of needs are within the graphs of banks. We have the data, we have the information of people that sit in this specific buckets. And when we're able to do that with such collaborations, we're able to directly channel funds to those end users that can use them to generate the necessary job employment that we're talking about, to put food on the table and reduce the incidence of social insecurities. Because those are the three key things that are primary in this type of period is the fact that we need to find a way to retain jobs. We need to avoid depression, right? Economic depression, that is, and we also need to ensure that we are able to stem the possibility for social unrest. So those are the flows that can happen. But for grants specifically from banks, that are not likely to be within our regulatory ambit, but we can also facilitate.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. I think it's really important for people to also understand what banks can and cannot do. And as a citizen who just sees a bank, it sometimes is difficult to empathize with what a bank can actually legally and from their business model do. So thank you very much for sharing that. If you mentioned your advisory arm, in this new normal, how are you defining new normal for let's say any business that you have discussed with about the new normal?
Great. First of all, we need to look at the model of businesses going forward. Right now, businesses have moved from place to space. So what that means is that we have to pivot. We have to start to reimagine businesses. I can give examples of some businesses that will need to reimagine totally. So let's look at the hospitality industry, for instance. Before now, it's about you coming in, take a space and feel good within that space. In the COVID era, the hospitality business should be about safety business providing hotels, because the confidence and comfort I will need to take into an hotel right now will be about my security, about my safety, about health issues. So the hospitality area should, first of all, be talking about how do I ensure that we have enough focus on health issues that will enable whoever comes for whatever short period of time that is required to feel safe within this environment. So it's no longer about hospitality, it's about safety. Okay? When this is done, then the next idea is the fact that a lot of activities have moved into the digital space. The digital space requires that you have low touch. For a number of months to come, there's still going to be a low touch economy. It's going to be contactless as much as possible. Even within banks, we're beginning to pivot from a number of activities. Luckily for my own bank, we've had a digital banking space some 3 years back. So being able to drive the customers from the traditional to the digital is part of us right now. And that is what I'm going to be advocating to the hospitality. How much of their activities can be contactless, even to the point of being able to access the room that I've booked online. Those are some of the things. And the staff, there are a huge number of staff. They must be safety conscious in this COVID era and even after. We must start to look at the hospitality from being able to provide safety in addition to the normal things they've always done in the past.
Yes, thank you. Honorable Commissioner, I don't know, I believe you're still with us. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so if we just take what Mr. Dotun has just said.
I'll be out by the next 4 minutes.
Yes, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. So this will be your last question, ma'am. Based off of what Dotun has just said about businesses pivoting from place to space, for an industry that on tourism, arts, and culture, how do we begin, or what are some of the ways that you would advise, businesses or stakeholders in your segment to start to look at that? It's
all about creativity. We need to be creative about the way to go about things presently. The new normal has come to stay, that's come in place. And what are the things our sector needs to do is to enlighten our people more, because contact business will not be as much as it used to be in the past. And what are the model that we're going to be, mode of operation for hospitality and creative sector is what we're looking into critically, and how best we can actually achieve that. Everything is doable. We need to only think deeply on how to achieve all this goal. And we're actually in it with all this, with our stakeholders. And I believe in a short while, we'll be able to get the proper solution to all this.
Thank you very much, Ma, and thank you for joining today. We really appreciate your time. You know how limited it has been. Thank you, and best of luck with all of the decisions that you have to make in the next couple of weeks and months. Okay. With that, I would like to go to Tara of House of Tara International. So businesses are, one of the advice that we're giving, I love this. Businesses should pivot from place to space. Makeup. I think that's probably one of the harder industries to move from place to space. If I can give myself as an example, I don't remember the last time I wore eyeliner, neither did I have to put on lipstick. Thank you, BusinessDay, for making those two things now a new reality for me in my new normal. But like for other customers or other consumers who generally just like to look good, not just for themselves, but for other people, how do you pivot from place to space? Is it even possible?
It is possible. So makeup it has a psychological effect on people. And it's an industry that is recession-proof. And it has been proven over time during wars, women still engage in what you call the little luxuries. So some of you will some women will still need to wear makeup, whether virtually, one of the big parties that we had, we used to do makeup for, thousands of people on a Saturday. That's going to change. But what we have begun to see is that more customers are willing to learn how to do their makeup themselves. So there's a DIY. And so with the DIY, people are moving on to technology. So we now have virtual classes. And more customers are interested in those virtual classes. One of the things I believe that makeup artists have done in Nigeria is to create a culture. I consider us as culture shapers. In 20 years ago in Nigeria, not everyone who went for a party needed to have their makeup done professionally. But that has changed. Buki, can you hear me? Oh, she's frozen. Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. I believe that we're culture shapers, and one of the things that we've done successfully in the last 15 years is to get Nigerian women to see the importance of having their makeup done every time, whether they're going for a small party or for a big party. I think we're going to do that again as an industry, work together to get consumers to feel more comfortable and knowing that your lipstick, your eye pencil, your foundation, and your powder gives you a sense of well-being that you may not have if you didn't put on your makeup. And that's a new reality for us. As an industry, we're all working together to ensure that the customers can feel that and see that. But the use of technology has become very impactful for us. We are now open to business across the world. So we are having people who are coming in, who are reaching out to us from Namibia, from Zimbabwe, and learning to do makeup, because in the past they would have to fly to Nigeria. We are seeing that those boundaries are being broken now, and we can truly be an African brand because of the influx of customers from across. Customers always like to just finding that more customers are willing to take appointments. So we now have an app where customers can book in their appointments and then come into the stores. We've put in a lot of safety mechanisms in place to get our customers to become more confident. Our makeup artists have now learned how to do makeup with gloves, whereas in the past, we just used our bare hands. They've also now learned how to protect themselves. So we're wearing face shields with masks, but also wearing goggles, and then we're wearing a PPE as well, something that we've customized for ourselves to make it easier for the consumers to also feel comfortable doing business with us.
Fantastic. And you know, specifically as a business, what has that done to your costs? So your operating expenses, has it decreased? Has it increased? Has it changed fundamentally? In other words, have you thrown out what you were originally using and now you're just working on a brand new operating expenses line?
So there's some costs that are reduced. For example, we don't have the same number of employees in each store that we used to have. But what that also means is that there are other costs. So for example, today we're now using surface disinfectants, okay, that we didn't used to use before, right? Every customer walking into the store has to go through the entire protocol of having your temperature checked, washing your hands outside before you can come in. Coming in, the makeup artists now wear different outfits than they used to wear before. They can't wear their wigs and their weaves. They now need to wear hair bonnets to protect themselves as well. Each customer's soles of their shoes are being disinfected. All those are new costs that we didn't have prior, right? The other thing also is that in the past, all the customers' products they use our products for the service. Today, we've gotten to a place where the customers now buy their own professional kits. So that cost of using our own products has changed, but there are now some new costs. So yes, the cost models have changed a bit. I can't necessarily say that it's cheaper or more expensive, but some of it significantly has changed.
Great. You talked about having less employees in your stores. Why? I would imagine that now we need to have more people in stores because more people need to be employed. So maybe it's more like shift systems to allow for social distancing. Can you just talk about that a little bit more?
Correct. Yes. So it's a shift system that we're using now. So one of the things is we're trying to prevent customers from meeting themselves. So in a standard House of Tara studio, we have about 28 of them across the country. On a Saturday, you see people queuing up to have their makeup done and what have you. And we want to prevent that from happening. So now we are insisting on the appointments. What that also means is that when you make your appointment, we can see who's going to be there at what time. So customers are not walking in and out. What that also means is that because we can control the number of customers who walk in, it means that you can also determine how many employees you can have on ground. So the shift system is because it's to ensure that, yes, you still have customers coming in, but in a more structured way to prevent people from meeting each other. I mean, one of the things we've also done is to insist that in many of our stores, not all, that you don't come in through the same door and exit through the same door. These are all just different protocols to keep the environment safe for the employees and for our customers as well.
Fantastic. It also even, I mean, as you've been talking, I've been thinking about the other new businesses that could actually spring up from that. Like, you know, even the fact of you can't enter through one door and another door, maybe you can't see the same security man. So maybe if you only had to employ one, maybe now that you need two because of the door protocol. So that's super, super interesting stuff. Last question for you. It doesn't sound like doing makeup or walk-ins are dead. AKA doing makeup at the store no longer exists. What about home service, right? Like how do I protect myself as a customer, and then how do I protect your employee, and then how do I know that your employee is protected coming into my house?
So if a makeup artist is coming from us, or most of the makeup artists, because we have now discussed these protocols, they will be protected. The concern is whether the customer is prepared. And so one of the things that we're doing is sharing information to say to our customers, because I mean, people have been stuck at home for 2 weeks, their eyebrows are bushy, they need someone to help them fix that, right? And so one of the things we're doing is packaging. So if you know that someone's gonna come into your house and you're not comfortable, you can get a set of these hair bonnets, right? You can get, all these things can be disposed on immediately the service is over. So you can destroy them in the bin immediately. Whether it's the face shield, whether it's the mask, whatever it is. But as long as the person who's offering the service is protected, then you can be protected.
Okay, so it sounds like customers are almost outsourcing their safety to you as a business. Are you prepared to handle that cost?
No, it's their cost. It's not our cost. So, yes, their cost.
Right.
You're going to buy makeup sets, your cost. If you're going to, if you don't feel comfortable when someone comes to your house, then you must have your hair nets. Then you must have your face shield. Then you must have the shoe covers. These are things that immediately after you can be sure that are being disposed, so that you know that the person who came into your home is prepared. Of course, I mean, one of the things that we realize is, what resources do we currently have as a business that we built, some capabilities that we've built over the years that we can now start to engage. So for example, we're building a consulting business, right? Out of that comes from 23 years of running retail stores across the country. There is a model that has worked, right? How many businesses want to scale, and how can we help to scale, right? There are many businesses that want to be structured. The reason why you can have a franchise model is because you're selling a retail operations system that works. How did you create that system? And how can businesses who, for example, have more than one branch, for example, how are they able to, and this is one of the things that House of Tar is doing now. This is the same resources, the same employees, but we're finding ways to get them engaged to some of the competencies that they built working within the organization, and then using it to serve a new client base.
Excellent, excellent. Onyeka, so I mean, I think you're the master of many businesses, juggler of all. Farm Crowdy, I mean, that's one business model. Plenty Waka, which is, essentially, can I call it a staff buses solution?
An e-hailing platform for buses at the moment.
Yes.
The staff bus on retail.
Okay, excellent. I mean, from place to space, I mean, people still need to, those of us that still need to get on the road, we still need to get from point A to point B. And time travel has not yet been invented, though I believe Richard Branson is still working on that. So, what are the ways, or what are the changes and the strategies that your business has employed in this new normal?
Okay, so
talk about Farm Crowdy and Plenty Waka, that would be great.
Yeah, I think it's cuts across, whether it's Farm Crowdy or Plenty Waka, and it applies to anybody that is in business in general. Very quickly, what happened was, as soon as we knew that the pandemic was building on, before the lockdown happened, we had a meeting internally to first discuss how, as a business, we're going to adapt to the changes that we knew were coming. So I think the first thing that business owners should do is to make moves in a timely manner. I first had that communication, whether it was with the managing directors of the different businesses, and say, how is this change going to affect, if there's going to be a lockdown? This was even before the first lockdown. If there's going to be a lockdown, how's it going to affect us? If we're forced to now work from home, how does it affect the different businesses? And so very timely, we started identifying, focusing, and swiftly addressing all the different vulnerable areas of our business that cuts across, whether it's Farm Crowdy or it's Plenty Waka. And in dealing with those areas, it started with first, how much finance do we have in the pool? I know I'm going to be giving examples of different businesses along with mine that I saw made some of these moves. So before the lockdown happened, I know a couple of startups that went ahead to raise additional capital in order to make sure they had money to sustain themselves for a longer period. That only happened because they identified what was going to be the new normal, maybe 3 months before the new normal came on us. And for us as a business too, or as business owners, we did the same thing internally to make sure we had at least enough pool of cash to sustain us through maybe the next 6 months to 12 months as a business, assuming there is nothing else coming in when you talk about revenue. Two was, how do we reevaluate our existing model to make sure that there are models that would survive in the lockdown and there are models that will survive post-lockdown? Because you see many business owners now creating new models for their business as a result of the lockdown scenario. And as soon as people are out of their houses and go back to their normal duties, that business model is dead. And so in identifying what business models we were going to work with, we made sure that we evaluated what we had working for us, that will work for us, assuming there was a lockdown. So I'm talking about before the lockdown happened. Assuming there was a lockdown, what will work for us? And then when the lockdown is over, what will work for us thereafter, that we didn't waste resources in just building something for that period. The third thing was, maintaining honest communication with all our clients. So these were clients that included our internal customers, being our staff, the team, and our external customers. And so we're constantly having regular meetings and updates. I remember putting to my team across Farm Crowdy, Plenty Worker, and Brent Smuspo, I was saying to them that if we're able to successfully achieve working from home at this time and achieve the trust level that our employees will do their tasks when they're supposed to do it, because one of the things that I know that employers are scared about working from home models, the challenge it comes with is that you find people not doing their work the way they're supposed to do their work, or do the work the way you have done it if they were in the office. But I say to them, if we can achieve that with this period, then we will be ready to adapt to that whole model of working from home combined with working from the office as it concerns the different sectors we operate in, because there are some sectors you cannot do that, but in the sectors we operate in where we can accommodate that, we will do that. And so before the lockdown happened, I think 2 weeks before it started, we were already practicing these models. We're already putting systems in place. In fact, 1 week before the lockdown happened, we started working from home. And then we communicated to whether it's our internal customers, being our staff, our external customers and stakeholders, to make them understand that these were the things we were putting in place to make sure we managed the safety and the health of our staff, which is very important for us. So that allowed us the 1 week window to prepare and then adjust. And then when the whole lockdown process then started fully, we already had our own systems in place to manage us through that process. So from my different businesses, I think this helped us in managing, getting into the best to be able to coordinate what was going to be the new normal. And then this also speaks to what we are dealing with as business owners now. The most important thing is speed, making sure you have the money, because if you don't have money to pay people's salaries, you would have to find alternatives to how you will keep your people. And all those things that you need to put in place to manage that bit were things that we had to do as a business. Sorry, Buki, I can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes,
I
can
okay.
Hear you. Okay, cool. I was saying that's a really good point. It sounds like speed and I don't want to call it a crystal ball, but the ability to predict a little bit faster or maybe plan and prepare is really what helped you. Specifically for Farm Crowdy, not the staff in the office, but the farmers on the farm.
On the field.
How do they, exactly in the field? I used to be a farmer, by the way, and I actually used to go to the field, yes. Having done that, there is no way to farm without being on the field.
Yeah.
So like, what protocols did you put in place or have you put in place for your farmers? And if you're still doing any farm to table, or if they have any farm to table outputs?
Yeah, so for our farmers on the field, I think what happened was the lockdown first was going to affect how we moved food items, from the farms to the cities like Lagos, Abuja, which are the first cities that were put on the lockdown mode. We quickly went ahead to get the approval to allow us move food commodities very early on. Two was to the farmers that were working on the field. This season is, so most farmers have already planted. Some of the crops have started sprouting at this time. So you would not have so much movement from farmers going to the farms within the last 6 weeks if they put the crop in the soil. If they've not done it, then they will fall into the late farming season. Now, farming doesn't, as much as, yes, you need to tender to the crops and you need to tender to the farm to make sure that you're dealing with whether you're applying herbicides when you need to post planting, or you're planting when you need to, or you're preparing the soil. It's not something you do. There are different stages in the farming process. There's a first stage where it's very heavily manual for subsistence farmers. It was very heavily manual. So you have that going to the farm constantly, they're tendering to the ground and putting seed in the soil. And I'm speaking to crop farming now. And so to that extent, you get that sorted, and then you have the next season where you don't need to go to the farm every week. I mean, you can go to the farm every week, but you don't need to be there every day. You don't need to be constantly sitting in the farm. And so they were able to manage the expectations across different farms as it concerned how they could penetrate into the farm and get things done going for them in the farm. But when it comes to poultry, when it comes to animal farming, there was a bit more effect on that because that requires constant interaction. That requires, and so some farmers experienced some losses. There were diseases that affected certain farms and certain poultry farms, and they didn't have access to the right medical experts that will allow them to provide the necessary guidance on how to deal with those scenarios. Now, that in itself brings up the opportunities around how technology plays a key role. Because for us in FarmProudly, one of the things we did was we built 2 years ago a technical expertise app that allows a technical expert to sit maybe here in Lagos or somewhere in Zaria or somewhere in Ibadan and is able to provide the necessary guidance and service to the farmer. But the only difficulty will be how the farmer will get the required, maybe it's herbicides when it comes to crops, or the required medication for the animals that they're having to rear. So, but in itself, just helping the farmer, guide him through the process. Technology played a key role for us in how we manage our farmers across the farm, making sure they got us technical expertise where needed.
Great. Someone just asked a really good question in our chat and said, can animals be affected by COVID-19?
So if you look at the genesis of COVID-19, I think there's been a lot of theories around, but one theory has been that it was something that was gotten from bats. Now, it means that if there are animals that currently have or can house COVID-19, they can do so, especially things like bats, they can do so and live with them and everybody's fine if you're not eating those animals. But when you talk about the ones we eat on a daily basis, there's no proof to show yet that COVID-19 can be housed by whether it's a cow or a goat or a chicken or what we eat at the moment. There's no proof to that at this time.
Okay, Michael, I see you nodding your head and knowing. What are your thoughts about that? Can animals be affected by COVID-19? And I would like to be specific. Some people eat bush meat, and that is a regular daily animal for them. So,
I'm not a pandemic expert, so but I think even the expert doesn't really know for sure at the moment. I think sort of the safe answer is we don't really know. But we think that it definitely came from animals. How it came from animals might be debated, but I think the science community is pretty clear where it came from, and then sort of the chain from there might be debated. But then we can't rule out how this chain can work in the future. But there's and I think like Onyeka was saying, there's no at least there's no big scientific community that's saying us right now that you have to watch out for cows. You have to, so we can't rule it out, but likely we should social distance to people, and that's what we sort of focus on.
That's true. Okay, great. So yeah, Michael, what I want to ask you about really two things. One, each of us has been talking about the new normal, the new normal, the new normal, but we actually haven't defined the new normal. And the new normal means different things for different people. Like Onyeka and Dotto are in their office. Tara and I are working from home. Tedru's working from home. Mr. Frank is working in a background of BusinessDay. What is this new normal is affecting each of us in very different ways. How would you define the new normal?
I think in reality, I would not define it as the current situation, because right now I think we might be in some kind of transitionary. We had sort of the immediate effect, the lockdowns in most countries, this sort of the whole stress of trying to find immediate solutions. Now I think we're in some kind of intermediate, trying to find, okay, we're not having a lockdown, but we still, I mean, the major issue we're all battling with is basically COVID-19 or the economic effect or the healthcare effect. But later on, I don't know exactly now, when I think we will have something defined as the new normal. And I think the key will be that it's not going back to how things looked in January 2020. So the new normal will be highly affected by COVID-19, but we will not be living in it in the same way as we have been and as we are right now. And I think the safety will still sort of, so it will be sort of a mixture of how we define this. I think it will be one, we're as consumer and as people a lot more safety thinking or safety cautious, but there will also be, we will have developed new needs in a way that we don't think, okay, I do this for safety or I do this because COVID-19, but it's become sort of our new way of doing things, and then we have reached a new normal. And I think, like Onyeka was saying, this planning and thinking through, that's brilliant, but the next stage will likely be testing. And I'm not sure, like, I'm a strategy consultant, so I should advocate for a lot of stringent analysis, but in reality, since we don't really know how the new normal will play out, and we don't have data of it, I would sort of suggest that test will be the best thing. Like, okay, is this the offer people are wanting now? And I think this will also change. Like what people want right now will probably be different in 6 months. But since most people can't wait 6 months to get something or to get the revenue, I think both the business model and the offers has to be thought through. Okay, this works, but maybe it will only work for 6 months. And then it has to be tweaked a bit. And then when we don't have to tweak this as often, that's probably when we are in the new normal. But to get there as a full business, you will need to. And I think smaller companies are, I mean, they are worse positioned because the cash flow isn't there in the same way. But I work a lot with big corporations, and they always have invested in things that they don't want to get out of. Either for like the people that worked on the previous project or the accounting and so on and so on. So they will have a hard time adjusting to new offers, new ways of getting paid and so on. So I think a smaller company that's actually trying testing will probably be better off than the large ones for the future.
Okay, so
now you sort of got a bit frozen.
Well, Michael, maybe I should step in here if you're hearing me. Is it possible for you to just outline key 3 things that owners or managers of small businesses should be doing at a time like this? I know what you have said, that new normal is still evolving. It's not quite clear yet. We're in transition. But what do you think? 3 key things that small business managers or owners should be doing at a time like this?
Okay. So based on the research we've done like the last 2 months, there's a multitude, because this is all changing. So there's no like this perfect American management book to buy and there's 5 bullet points and then you're set. It's a bit trickier than that. But I think the first thing that sort of comes to mind, particularly from the interviews we've had, is that the owner or the key personnel in the company has to find a way to have mental health and to actually be able to focus on the business, because so many of the people we talk about, they only use half their brain on the business at the moment, and the rest they worry about the future or the family. So I'm not sure how you would achieve that, but achieving a state where you can actually focus 100%, I think will be key. And the second one will be the one I was talking about before. Okay, so we have a new situation. We can't really think in all the ways we used to do. So now when we have the full brain, let's be creative. And with creative, I think I mean testing at the moment, rather than doing this totally out there that will take 3 years for anyone to understand. It's better to be here and now and test things that will work and then tweak them going forward. And then I think in the whole world, the digitization has sort of, I mean, it's been talked about. It's been for the last 20 years what people sort of write books about. But right now, it's still, even the restaurant has to be digitized now, where I come from. Otherwise, they won't make money. The local coffee shop basically run their business these days on SMS orders. So everyone has to sort of take into account the digitization. I mean, it will differ so much for different businesses, but I think the new normal would definitely have not just digitization for some people, or there will be more money in that, but like 99% of the business will somehow have digital areas or digital offers.
Great, thank you. And in fact, this brings me to one of the questions I wanted to ask, which was, oh, Onyeka, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to add to what Michael said very quickly for business. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Just to add to what Michael said, what business owners should look at now is contactless service provision, contactless payments, data management, and pretty much marketing in a contactless way. From sector to sector, I think every SME business owner should find ways where they're able to provide their service without contact. And to this end, I mean, having mentioned those 4 things, the major driving factor underneath all of it is the bedrock of it is technology. And right now, I think businesses should see themselves first as technology businesses providing, if I use Tara, for instance. So a technology business providing cosmetic service, a technology business providing financial services, a technology business providing customer service, a technology business providing food. For instance, initially in reevaluating our model in farm crowding, we started out with what I'll call that test phase that Michael was referring to, where we started allowing people use a mobile app to order for their meat. So we had meat hubs that we started putting in place. And this was before the lockdown. And we didn't know there was going to be a lockdown. So people were ordering for their meat on the mobile app, and it gets delivered to them in their home. So they don't have to go to the market to buy meat. But during the lockdown phase, there was a point where we had to get involved in providing some food items to a group of people, to our staff and a group of people during the lockdown phase. What we then did was we had to work with Plenty Waka using their vehicles, because they were all shut down at that time, to deliver the food items that Farm Crowdy was getting from the market. At that instance, speaking to the mental health of a business owner, before then I had a mental block from the whole news all over the place. I literally had to stop looking at the score lines we always check every night, and just to get my head off the fear and anxiety, and then able to now take 100% of my head back into the opportunity that was presenting itself in front of us. And so in that instance, that's between Saturday and Monday of that week, that we're able to provide food items for these people. It opened up an opportunity from Plenty Waka, where we saw that there are people that want to move items from point A to point B, but can't move and don't know where to get these items from. Immediately, we started working around building an aggregator network for logistics providers so that people can have the Plenty Waka app and not just use Plenty Waka to move from A to B, but they can move items from their house from one house to the other house. I want to get a fridge from here to the and I can't go out, but Plenty Waka can do that for me. So we started looking at that as an opportunity. On the Farm Crowdy end, we immediately launched what we call Farm Crowdy Foods, which then started allowing people to now buy their food items without going out of their houses. And the rice, the gari, the meats they need in their house will be supplied to them at their doorstep. So I think across the different businesses, irrespective of where a person finds himself today, first consider yourself a technology provider. If you have that mindset, you will be able to translate it into all the different sectors and find how you use technology to provide contactless service, contactless payments, contactless marketing and customer engagement, and data management services. So I just wanted to add that to what Michael said earlier.
Okay, I'd like to contribute as well.
We can hear you.
Hi. In fact, this is so perfect that this keeps happening, because this is one of the questions I wanted to ask both Michael and Teju. How are businesses going to survive if they have to pivot to working from home, and your internet, like mine I'm now using 2 different internet providers, keeps just booting you out every at this point, every 20, 30 minutes. How does that affect, one, Michael, the advice that you give businesses in terms of what investments they should make? And then Teju, for you, in terms of lending, right? Will you now allow businesses to start investing in some of these infrastructure, or how will I call it, the new PP&E for an employee to work from home?
Okay, I mean, so far, I'm not sure how much our advisory has changed in terms of the specific advice. But I mean, one thing that's clear in Nigeria is that the internet infrastructure needs to be improved. Unfortunately, to do that, you need to improve the power infrastructure, because without the power, it becomes extremely expensive to run this, and really tricky. For the individuals, what we have done, both for ourselves and some that we work with, is that usually there's something that works, like you're saying, you have 2. But I did, because I'm sort of in charge of this at Dahlberg too, trying to see so everyone can work. And if you buy a separate antenna and a 4G router, you usually, wherever you're in Lagos at least, you get a connection. So buy an antenna would be my suggestion, because the MiFi has a very, very small antenna in it, but you can buy an antenna like this for about 20,000 naira, and then you get a lot better connection.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just add to that very quickly, is the fact that from what everybody has said, Onyeka, Tara, is that there are opportunities actually for small businesses to pivot. And those opportunities actually require some level of investment, whichever way we look at it. Some people are going to be investing in new health protocols, people will talk about something as simple as a thermometer for a micro business is important at this time. We're keen to support businesses that want to take advantage of the opportunities that exist in the market. I like what Onyeka has shared a lot around the fact that you have to be able to focus and see where these opportunities are. There's going to be less spending power when it comes to dollars. People are going to be buying more local, because we've seen it historically. This happened in 2016, and this is going to happen again. These are opportunities that small businesses will want to take advantage of now. Is now being able to evaluate and project it in such a way that we're not just building pies in the air. People are looking at it conservatively and saying to themselves, this is what I can actually do. Look at House of Tara, for example. Most people are going to buy what is available with Naira, not looking for the more expensive options. Yes, we want people to invest in things that can help us, because now we're looking at where the opportunities are that are able to generate jobs. If people want to produce locally agricultural products, these are jobs. This is what we're talking about. These are opportunities for new businesses to focus on job creation, looking at what is happening in the local economy. So we're happy for people to invest, whether they're trying to do contactless delivery, improve on the technology infrastructure. But let's just be careful about our cash flow projections and how we think we'll be able to repay those investments over time at this time.
Very good point. Due to my internet, I interrupted Tara. I'm so sorry. Please, would you like to go ahead with your point?
Yes, I think Michael was talking about mental health, and he said, he doesn't know how people are going to deal with that. But I wanted to make a point to say that those WhatsApp groups where they're consistently talking about the problem, you need to exit. So I woke up one day, I slept, and in my dream I saw death, like people dying. And I'd gone to bed just after I had gone on one of those WhatsApp groups. So if you are a CEO, you're a small business owner, and you're constantly reading messages from those groups, I can tell you that you have a brain block. And I had to literally wake up one morning and exit one after the other. So if there's one thing you can do to set yourself free, is to exit those groups and engage only in conversations where people are talking about opportunities. The second thing I'd like to highlight is many of us are, yes, we're going to use technology, but I can tell you that there are some businesses that can't use technology. And this conversation around pivoting, everybody cannot pivot. So if your business still has value to give, focus on engaging your customers. I've spent the last 1 month talking to my customers at different levels. Our beauty reps who sell our products across the country. I just hosted a Zoom webinar with them. And the conversation was around, what do you think we as House of Tara can do for you to help you to continue to grow your business? Number one. Number two, what do you think the customers who you are interfacing with want for today? And ideas came about new things and new products that House of Tara was not previously thinking about that we could now introduce into our range, simply because we are engaging our customers. If you have 2-3 employees, as you as the founder, CEO is going through issues around your mental health, you're anxious, remember that you're not the only one who's anxious. Your employees are anxious. And there are little things like creating conversations. We have care groups. We created care groups, and the care groups are really about how do you find one person who checks up on people. And checking up on people just simply means, how is your head? How is your heart? Don't say, I'm okay. I want to know how you're feeling. And sometimes ask a question around use one word to describe how you're feeling. And somebody will say, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling afraid, and then to reassure. And as leaders at this time, our voices need to be heard. We cannot be quiet. Our team members need to hear our voice. And this is the time to find what gives you a sense of peace. Get yourself centered. It's a good time to become more self-aware, but also extend your voice to encourage your team. So we all can pivot. Those who can't pivot, let's just focus, right, and engage our customers so that we can get ideas. And those of us who are not technologically inclined previously are being forced to become technologically inclined. That is one of that is for House of Tara. So let's keep hope alive, because there are opportunities.
Doctor, please go ahead.
Well, great. I was really impressed by the contribution of Tara Monyeka. So again, without overemphasizing it, you need to keep calm as a business owner. You are not alone. And in keeping calm, that's when you're able to reimagine, you're able to bring out new ideas, you're able to use your network to be able to attain some of those mileages. One other aspect I would like to add is the fact that we should also be in groups. Right now, we need that communal encouragement and emotional connection to stay positive. The groups for SMEs are very important at this point in time, because when palliatives or whatever grants or support are going to come, they may have to come through some of those groups that you belong to. What that does is the fact that they will be able to reach more people than just taking one by one and getting to individuals. I would imagine that every SME owner, every SME business runner now should be in groups that will enhance their capacity. Another thing I would like to drop is the fact that this is an opportunity for us to start thinking self-sufficient. As a country, this will pass. As global individuals or global entities, this will pass. But again, imagine a situation where Nigeria now becomes a new China. And in doing so, what it means is that we need to focus on certain elements. Food will be a very big priority going forward. So just like Onyeka has made impact in that space, we have to be thinking about it as a nation. We have never had any food security policy in place. Now we are trying to manage what is happening. The planting season is even a bit unsure at this point in time. Another aspect is healthcare. The nations are focused on providing healthcare for their citizenry. What is happening to our own healthcare? What can we do from point of finance to get this done, to get this better? Because they will not be able to import their hospitals into Nigeria. And of course, the educational side of it must also be adequately focused on, because the education is going to provide all those imagination, innovations, and ideas that would help us to properly situate every business in every sector who will be working as tech, providing the services that they have to provide. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very helpful. So we have about 18 minutes left, and I would love to open up for Q&A. So if you have a question, please either enter it into the chat, but preferably into the question and answer section of Zoom. We've already had about 4 questions already answered. So for the panelists, please open the Q&A box as well so that you can see any additional questions. As people begin to type their questions, I actually want to shift gears from thinking about and I kind of love that this conversation hasn't been about woe is me, my business is dead, what am I going to do? Government is not helping me. No, it hasn't been about that. It's been about what are the survival skills? And I think that we've given great survival skills for both the CEO and then also for their business in terms of when you think about their business model. I want to shift a little bit to thinking about thriving, right? If possible, I would love if each person right now could share an example of a way within this, I love this transitional phase of COVID, how their business has either thrived or an example of a business that they know has thrived. It can be anything. So I can, let me see, who would like to start? Dotto, you smiled first, so you get to start.
Okay, great. Just like we've identified, businesses right now are likely to be more about tech than what they've always done before traditionally. So as a financial institution, for instance, we position ourselves to being a tech company providing financial services. And some of the steps we took around this is the fact that we went digital some 3 years back by providing the first digital bank in Nigeria, Alert. What that does for you is, right now, without having any contact with anyone, you can actually open an account, have it fully operational without any point of contact with any bank or any branch or any person whatsoever. What this does is for us to encourage the fact that banking is no longer about where you go, it's about what you do. And in doing this, we are gradually navigating the idea of being lifestyle enablers. Because what it means is that with your device, you can actually do so much more beyond just banking. And what that does is that it gives that satisfaction to the consumers. Some questions around how do I access my funds during lockdown will not come in place because the funds can be moved from one point to the other. Some questions around how do I even get to engage with my financial tech advisory services will not come into place because you can actually have access to that online real time as you go. And that also enables us to put proper use of devices. We can put it to good use rather than just the usual social media only type of activities. We can actually make the social medias even more financially inclined as we go. For the entire economy, this will be the way to go. And as the situation evolves, we will be able to do much more without having to maintain some contact. The physical distancing will still be there. We'll be able to keep healthy, and a healthy nation is going to be a wealthy nation. So my parting shots will be for everyone to adhere to what the government has said around making the physical distancing and the wearing of masks and all the other healthy tips that has been given. And rest assured that you can actually do banking without having to go to anybody. And your bank officers can actually reach you and give you the necessary advisory services that will enable you to do what you need to do without any physical touch. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you. You're so great for these one-liners.
Can I just quickly?
Yes, Cedric, please.
I'll just say that, for people who have really been thinking, so, people have started making, face mask is now compulsory. It has been gazetted by the federal government as an offense. if you're not wearing face masks, fines up to 20,000, imprisonment up to 6 months. So what are people, I've seen businesses that have now gone on to start making PPE who were in just fashion, pure fashion. Couture, Tiffany Amber, we have another in our network, OSC Garment Manufacturing, people who have not seen the opportunity, they saw the opportunity quickly and they took it. I even know an event manager who is now making face shield, precision, Madam Fix It. Those are the kind of opportunities that some people are seeing in the market and are immediately plugging themselves into it to make sure that, they're taking advantage of what is going on. And I think from something else everybody has shared is the importance of engaging your customers at this time. First, the ones that already exist. How are you able to give them the comfort that they need to know that, look, it's going to be safe, even if you come in. So you're a beauty salon, like Tara said, engage the customers, your internal and the external. Your staff need to know what to do. The external need to know that it is it's still a good time to come in. This is what we've put in place to make this happen. If it's something you can't do by yourself, this is another opportunity for you to get shared services, use a marketing firm to engage your customers to make sure that people are aware that your business is running and you're able to do this in a safe environment. Thank you.
Tara, would you like to go next?
I think a few things. One of them is acknowledging that in this season, there are loads of people who also feel a sense of discomfort, uncertainty, and realizing that as a culture, at House of Tara, we always say one of our culture is care. And one of the things we realized was there were people who were constantly reaching out to other employees, just checking up on them. And one of the things it did for me is to give me a reassurance that if you say this is your culture, sometimes when things are hard is when it begins to test what your culture truly is. And to be able to see that, yes, we didn't generate money for the first month, a dime, because all our stores were closed, but it was great to see the camaraderie, right? Creating WhatsApp groups and having all these fun things that they were doing, putting people on the hot seats. Have you fallen in love before? Who did you fall in love with? Just seeing the kind of emoticons that were being shared with the latest pastor in town, Daboski, right? Liquid metal, and these were the places where I found all this information in this period. And I'm just thinking, man, I love you guys at House of Tara. You're amazing. You're so cool. So I didn't know about Daboski before until this period. So it's one of the great things about this season.
Okay, great. And I'm just going to mention that there's a question for you in the Q&A box. So if you could please press Q&A on there, you can help us answer it. Onyeka, over to you.
If I use oh wow, the light just went off.
Working from home, this is part of the new, well, this was always normal.
I'm actually in the office,
No, but I'm saying it was always part of the normal. Okay, let's go to Michael as your light resumes.
Yeah, it should come back shortly. Maybe Michael can take over when the light is back.
Okay, you look kind of cool that way. But
oh, okay, it's back.
Okay, so I think yeah, all this. Buki, can't you repeat the question one last time?
Yes, I can. I said, so now that I want to shift to thinking about thriving, small businesses thriving. What are the examples that you have heard of or things that you have seen of small businesses thriving within this transitionary period?
Okay. So where I stay right now, there's 3 coffee shops and they all used to do quite a lot of business, but there seems that only one is making business right now. And that one you can text in the morning, like, I want a cappuccino at 8:22 outside my door. And then they come and deliver it. So I think that's the one that sort of, and it's not a tricky thing, but they were first with it. They were really pushing for it in the local, just these like 5 blocks. And then I think also just the ones that's been on top of this, like in a lot of Western countries at the moment, there's a massive gear towards exercises. So in Sweden, the most downloaded app right now is Run Zombies. So basically, you're supposed to go out and run, and the zombies are hunting you on the map that you see on your smartphone. And that's how, so obviously they've been quite creative in using this period to release it. And I think specifically for Dahlberg, so we work a lot with UN at the moment to basically with data gathering, because the big question people are asking now is what's actually happening? How many countries is in which phase, and what are they doing in that phase, and what's that affecting? So for us, we do a lot of what's happening right now, but that's not really telling for the future. So I think for the future, we would probably work a lot more with how do you create comfort for people? How do you create a feeling of security? Yeah, that would be my.
Great, thank you.
All right, and from my own end, Buki, I think, so everybody is doing their own business in different sectors, and there's no way I'm going to tell a guy that was running a barbering salon now to go and start selling food items. And the guy that's selling food items will now start selling drugs. We are all caught out of different things that makes us unique and makes us as business owners the right people to lead the businesses that we're running. My view to how businesses are thriving, from what I have observed, even for us internally, whether it's in Farm Crowdy or in Plenty Worker, is those three things that I mentioned earlier on about looking first at what your current business model is today. So, and then you can, from it, deduct what people need today. So what has the environment, what has the lockdown, what has the lack of jobs, what has the pandemic done to us as a society? You put that first on the table and then look at what was I providing as a service, and can tweak or can modify or can provide similar service, but doing so from a place where I can still serve people within this lockdown period. If that's not going to be the case, then I need to identify, using my own strength, what I am good at, what I can focus on, what I can build very quickly that will serve people during this period and after this period. I'm quite concerned about people building things not just to survive for now, although survival is key, but not just to survive for now, but a business that can, even when things go back to, even if it's 50% of normal, of what we used to call normal in December 2019, that idea will still thrive. Mm-hmm. So as SMEs, this is my own approach to how I will want to thrive as a business around this time while surviving. That's one. Now, two, I know I have a bias for technology because I'm a software engineer. I used to be a software engineer, but I've moved on from there now to just focus on businesses and marketing and all the other things I've done in the space. Before this pandemic, I was a big advocate, and I'm still the same, of businesses using technology as a bedrock. Now, I'm not saying you should be a programmer, but I'm saying find how you use technology as a bedrock to amplify your service, to grow your service. And when people say technology, some people think it's only when you build a website or have a mobile app. You know that the banks, when I saw pictures of people going to banks to try to get money from the banks, and that whole pandemic that was happening, you know why you will not see that in Kenya? It's because of mobile money. And mobile money in itself is driven by USSD code services and other forms of services that is easily accessible to a person's, you don't need to have a smartphone. You can have your money move from point A to B and get access to it using a feature phone. And that service in itself is available somewhere in Kenya and in many other parts of Africa, I'm not even using Europe or the US, in many other parts of Africa, that makes it easy for people to have access to their money. So what I'm getting at is technology doesn't have to be so sophisticated. Find ways of making your service simpler, accessible, without you having to do any physical interaction with people. And that in itself will help you thrive as a business. The third thing, which is going to be my last thing, is that a lot of people—
2 minutes left. Yes.
All right, a lot of people are losing jobs right now. It means there's a lot of skilled labor out there. I think people should start identifying how you're going to be able to— I was talking to someone the other day, a lady, and said, you are a customer service representative, yes, but there are plenty customer service representatives that are losing their jobs. Can you identify an opportunity of how you will now provide aggregated customer service service to businesses, where all these businesses don't need to hire these people, but you hire everybody and put them somewhere, and then they start rendering their service to all the different businesses that can't afford it, but will plug into your service and then get similar service. Now it cuts across many other businesses. Sorry, if you leave me, I'll keep talking. So I think those three.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Because I want to make sure that we end on time because we started on time. Thank you all so much. If I can share my example from Travel Start, it's basically what has also been shared. I think it's two-pronged. First, from your existing customers, keeping in touch with them. The skies are closed, and so every time we get an update, we share that with our customers, because at the end of the day, we're eager to fly, but they're even more eager to leave their houses. And the other thing that we've been doing, internally as well, is just, my team and I, we do these things called daily charges, where we get up at 7 a.m. and one of us for 20 minutes will talk about a specific topic that has nothing to do with work, nothing to do with COVID specifically, but use it to charge us up and just show that, like, we're all thinking about the same anxieties, but here's how each person is dealing with it. If I could wrap up the conversation today, and I would say, what are the answers to this question? What are the SME strategies for the new normal? I would say that our panelists have answered, and the summaries are basically this, in no specific order. 1, make sure that you have enough cash for the next, I would say, 6 to 12 months, so that you don't run out, even if it's only 3 to 6. 2, there is opportunity here. There's opportunity for your business to pivot, and there's also opportunity for your business not to pivot. You need to look for the opportunities within whatever business model it is that you choose to have. 3, your mental health as a business owner and as the CEO is critical. If you're not mentally strong, your employees can't be mentally strong for you. 4, if you're a passionate employee like me, I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm not a business owner, and I give kudos to Tara and Onyeka for leading the charge that way. But if you're the Dotto and I and the Michael and the Tedrus of the world, you can still help your CEO and your business owner with what they're thinking about by coming up with creative solutions. Creativity does not live at the top, it lives throughout the organization. I love what Michael said, test, test, test. Nobody knows the answer. There is no book that you're going to read. There is no case study that you're going to read that's going to tell you about this. I think, as Tara said, the war is probably the most similar period of time to what we're going through. But even then, it's completely different. Think about what this transitionary phase means for your business in this normal, and then begin to plan for the new normal, which will probably begin to show up around 2021, 2022, when things stop changing as dramatically as this. And lastly, I leave you with this. You are doing better than you think. You will survive this period. And even if things do not look the same as they did in January, that is completely fine. You are still here and you will still do amazing things in the future. Thank you very much, Business Day. And I would like to hand over to Frank now. Thank you.
Buki, thank you very much. So mental health, we should be very careful to watch our mental health, because we have a responsibility to motivate our team, and we have a duty to engage with our customers. Without any question, this will pass. And so whether you're a business or an individual, be certain you are not part of the statistics. I think I want to see you on the other side. Now, let me thank Tara, Onyeka, Teju, Dotun, and I will eternally be grateful for the one line from place to space. And of course, let me thank dear Commissioner who had to leave us, Uzamat. Michael, thank you so very much for those very thoughtful ideas. And I'm not surprised as a consultant, we didn't expect any less. And of course, our moderator, Buki, always a pleasure. I thank MTN for being our partners today. And for you, our audience, I hope this has indeed been an inspiring conversation for you. Keep your hand on the plow. Don't let go. You will make it. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Wait, are we off? Or are we on? MTN?
I think people are leaving one by one.
Oh, okay. I thought MTN switched us to another thing.
No, you're still on, so I'm switching off now. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Nice one.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the conversation. And I hope you enjoyed yourselves. Have a wonderful
day.
All right. Bye-bye then.
Bye.
Thank you,
Nice
Bucky and Frank.
weekend.
This was really good.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Cookie. Thanks.